The Metro series is one of the few out there that I feel go really underappreciated. The main reason being just cause it's old. So old that even Donkey would be surprised cause they hadn't figured out how stairs worked yet. They still don't get it even in the modern game.
Didn't they figure out how to do that technology in like 2004?
They are really not in the same classic level as other games that people constantly compare it to. In fact, I only got reminded that this game existed because of a guy online that is famous for burning himself. Then I bought it, couldn't run it above 30 FPS, and then recently was playing another Russian game, and halfway through a thought crossed my mind. Damn, I should finish the Metro series. So we got a trilogy developed by 4A Games, published in 2010, 2013, and 2019. Developed by Deep Silver, with a story and its universe loosely based on a novel by the same name. The first game has the same name. Written by Dmitry Glukovsky. Well, I tried reading the first book, but damn, the pacing is just so slow, man. It lacked action for me. Artyom rarely fights in the novels. I guess it can be a good read if you are really into the Metro universe. The games are more action-based FPSs that also mixes some elements of different genres like RPG and a pinch of horror during specific segments. The games are set in a post-apocalyptic world, taking place mostly around Moscow, Russia. Well, everybody knows that after the Cold War, the only country in the world that speaks Russian is Russian. So in the dubbed version, every character talks with a thick Russian accent. You know, for immersion. The first game, Metro 2033, starts with some crazy foreshadowing. It's pretty much the game end. It's a nice introduction, but let's just skip it and go back a few years in the past, 20 years to be exact. In 2013, another Great War occurred. Not just any war, World War III. And this time, the world as you and me know it was destroyed. The whole world, but most importantly, the entirety of Russia was greatly impacted by nuclear bombs, turning Earth's surface into a wasteland with high levels of radiation, degrading life all across the country, creating mutants of all kinds everywhere. Huge deformed bears, gorillas, and even shrimps, humans, insects, whatever this is, or this thing, or even this. The few humans that survived had to find a way to thrive in the metros, deep down in the interconnected city tunnels, the few remaining places where the air is still breathable. Humans had to convert these tunnels into new city-states. We got many of them spread throughout the country, and each have its own laws and chain of command, much like the vaults in the Fallout series. Our protagonist is a Giga Chad called Artyom. He was just a little kid in the day of the collapse, and so Artyom is around 20 years old and lived most of his life in one of these subterranean societies, more specifically in the exhibition station, a large, powerful station with a stable economy primarily driven by the production of psychedelic mushrooms.
Cut down on the shrooms. Shit, I'd love a drink.
Now, not even the apocalypse was enough to put an end to human conflict. Wars still happen everywhere. Militant factions stand strong. The three main ones are the Spartan Rangers. They are really the good guys, fearless warriors that roam the wasteland, moving either individually or in small units, helping settlements as well as fighting mutants and bandits, while also serving as protectors of police, a widely known collection of stations that act unified as a single massive station. Then we got the opposition, aka the bad guys, literal Nazis. Their faction is called the Fourth Reich. And lastly, the Red Line, one of the most powerful factions in the Metro, a socialist political union that is engaged in a long war against the Fourth Reich. In all the stations we got humans living normal lives, planning their future, raising children, and it's all so fascinating to explore. Money has no value, but people aren't trading bottle caps. It's instead military-grade bullets. All the merchants throughout the whole Metro only accept this as payment, since rounds of this quality cannot be reproduced in current times. Electricity, though, seems abundant. People don't seem to suffer with many outages. Scientists even use computers to run crisis at max settings, so No problem, apparently. People also entertain themselves the way they can. Live shows is still a thing. And there's even too much entertainment, if I had to say so myself. But anyway, that's the world Artyom was born in. But what about the plot? Well, it plays around these creatures named as the Dark Ones. They are humans who were left behind in the day of the collapse, and as a result received telepathic powers. Many consider them as the next step in human evolution. Hunter, the best Spartan in the Order, says that they are hostile because entering people's mind drives them mad. Even though it's not really the Dark One's intention, Hunter doesn't know that, and he gives you his dog tags to present to other rangers and unite forces to combat them. The game has two endings, but to get the good one you gotta be non-lethal, and it's super hard because the stealth is dog shit. Well, the second game improves on some things, so let's get into it. Metro Last Light. Even though it came 3 years after Metro 2033, it really feels like the exact same game. It's more of a DLC than a new game. The graphics, the gameplay, everything's really the same. Except there's a couple more guns and attachments and a better stealth system. But still, it even has the same bugs as the first game. There's a bug where you can't move, and the night vision never worked for me. The enemies in this game are really blind and deaf. There's a shadow of a nail in the ground. That's enough to make Artyom invisible. But yeah, the stealth is there for the very least. Artyom is a silent protagonist that talks, and I hate silent protagonists. But then again, he talks. Yeah, because of this game I discovered something new that I hate. Artyom talks in the loading screens, as if he's reading a page from his diary. But like, if you're gonna give my boy a voice, why not have him talk in game? It's almost like it wasn't intentional. It's like they surpassed the budget and couldn't pay the coders, the voice actors, and the dialogue writers. We all know where it went. That's some nice physics engine right there. I mean, I get that the argument for a silent protagonist that we the players can insert ourselves in their shoes, which is already a shit argument from my stand. But it even makes less sense when you know your character has a voice but refuses to talk back whenever someone is directly talking to him. And there's many moments where it hurts to know that canonically he could answer these concerned calls when he's stranded and no one knows where he's at. And have him talk in game while also having other characters acknowledge his silence is not the way to go.
I'm all ears. Don't be shy. Are you mute or what?
There are only a handful of games out there that were able to pull off a good silent protagonist. I don't think there's more than one that is a shooter, so would be much better to have him interact with other characters, or talking with some NPCs, even if it's like 2 voice lines. The NPCs already talk to you when you approach them, why not have Artyom do the same thing with the press of a button? It's not that bad of a problem in the first game, but in the second and the third it's much worse, because Artyom got many more characters constantly interacting with him. In Last Light he meets Anna, who from the start, after 5 minutes of dialogue, it's pretty easy to predict that they're gonna end up together. Artyom is constantly interacting with her, and then on the third game, so much of the dialogue is plot important. We constantly have side characters trying to address Artyom directly and looking for a conversation, especially Anna, who plays a concerned wife, trying to create a strong bond with Artyom. She talks about such important marital subjects, and Artyom comes off as a cold-blooded, apathetic protagonist. Anna questions him, and he won't defend and explain himself. Besides, in that game, Artyom starts taking the role of a leader, and the other characters look to him for guidance. But here comes the silent protagonist effect again. They just kinda seem to read his mind or figure it all out for themselves. It's so bad.
To the new colony!
And having more women join it.
It's your turn, Artyom. Come on, impress us.
Wait, what? What am I supposed to do? I can't drink? Guess I'll just leave? Sure. The plot is quite simple really. Once again, it's all set around the Dark Ones. Khan, this guy here, says that he spotted one more Dark One somewhere, and basically he wants you to make peace with the Dark One. These news though are spread throughout the metro like wildfire. Some wants to seize the Dark One, some wants to kill it as a potential threat. And because of it, a massive war is unchained. And so, you must get to the Dark One before any of the armies. The twist is that you are representing the Spartan Rangers, and the commander, Miller, Anna's father, wants you to kill the Dark One. And yeah, as I said, these beings are really good at invading minds and stuff like that. And so the story is really trippy and a lot of crazy things happens. When it was released, a lot of people got confused about the game's title cuz the sequel to the novel is Metro 2044, but this game is called Last Light. The reason for it though is that although the video game is set in 2044, Dimitri created a new original story to be the plot of this game. And he also made the same thing for Exodus, the next game. And yeah, that's it. I don't have much more to say. This game is just too similar to Metro 2043, and if I say more about the story, I'll definitely spoil it. So let's just get into the next one, Metro Exodus. This game really is the golden gem in the series. It improves the mechanics and features from the first two games and reapply them in a better optimized modern game. It's the game with the most environment variety. We've got forests, snow, deserts, but we also got new weapons, new enemy factions, new mutants, and even vehicles are here. But there's still bugs. I could have never opened the map in a vehicle, otherwise the camera would glitch. The story takes place 1 year after the events of Last Light, and this game doesn't go full schizo like the last two. It actually abandoned many of those previous subjects, like the Dark Ones are barely mentioned again, and overall there's very few moments where Artyom starts hallucinating or something like that. The game starts with some flashbacks showing how life was before the nuclear war and how it is now. Then it jumps forward to Artyom, who's tired of the constant fight and corruption within the metro. He's in love with Anna and dreams of a place where he can live with her, away from the infinite cold and radiation. He doesn't have much more fight in him, and he barely gets involved with the business of the Spartan Order. He passes most of his time scouting the outside, obsessed with trying to prove that human survivors exist outside of Moscow, and makes numerous dangerous expeditions to the surface, leaving Anna concerned and Miller frustrated. In this gameplay, while he was coming back to the metro using the sewers, he gets jumped by some mutants and is almost killed. He's saved by some Spartans and wake up alongside Anna in a bed. She begs him to stop going to the surface. Every time he leaves, it takes longer for him to come back, and he gets more hurt and weaker. Eventually, this obsession of his will kill him. Well, a week later, he's back at it. But this time he brought Anna with him to show her some places he found on the outskirts of Moscow, areas considered as danger zones. Anna does believe in and have the same dream as Artyom, but she'd much rather have him close to her than risking his life for something that may not be real. On this expedition though, they witness a working train running on the surface, and this is the moment where she truly started believing him. But before they can follow it, they are captured by Hansa soldiers that was dressed like soldiers from the Spartan Order. Hansa is a trading alliance comprising several stations. In there, alongside other captives, there was people who claimed to be from outside of Moscow. Artyom gets shot, but Hunter's dog tags save him. Classic. Artyom then followed the soldiers to save Anna, and in the process inadvertently destroys a signal jammer that was blocking communications coming in and out of Moscow. Radio transmissions from all over the world starts being picked up, ultimately proving that Artyom was right and humanity is still at large outside of Moscow. The train we've seen earlier is called the Aurora, that is in the possession of the Hansa soldiers. Artyom and Anna hijack it. As the train leaves, the Spartan Order moves in to retake it and is shocked and confused about Artyom and Anna's presence. The Spartan Order knew about life outside of Moscow but just never revealed it. Knowing that Hansa will put them to death for knowing about human settlements around the world, Miller concludes that the Spartans' best chance of survival is to flee Moscow. Hence, the Exodus in the title. That is pretty much the story. It is nice, very complete, but the plot is quite predictable, especially near the ending. Like villains talk and act like villains, and Anna has a cough. I mean, come on, for a game, so could never pull this off, releasing this game only a few months after Red Dead Redemption 2. But outside of the immense predictability, the world is very vivid and interesting. But of course, common to games like this. To learn about the world and have a rich experience, you have to go out looking for notes and have to trigger a bunch of optional dialogue with the NPCs. Exodus varies from the normal linear story like the previous games and open world. But being honest, there's nothing special in the open world. It is pretty underwhelming to say the least. The max you can do is go to some enemy areas to fight in outposts like in Far Cry, or complete some side missions that the NPCs give you, like go somewhere and bring back a guitar or a teddy bear. Yeah, really important things to do in the apocalypse. Thanks, devs. Regardless, it is at least nice to have an open world. Traveling through it is like going inside a painting. Such beautiful scenarios. In stealth, enemies continue being blind AF. And they are pretty dumb, don't know how to hide in shootings and expose themselves too much. The good versus the bad ending still boils down to killing or knocking out people in specific scenarios. But only now there's a couple of moral situations. Like you see some people being preyed upon and you can save them. So the series is a full plate if you, like me, enjoy realistic gameplay with some nice world building. You have to accept that the gameplay is slow and it is meant to be that way. There are plenty of moments that you could call monotonous where you're just walking and learning about your environment. There is nothing dynamic and fast-paced in the game. There's no grappling hooks, no rocket jump, no power armor, no B-hops. What it does have is AI in scripted sequences trying to copy, reproduce, and share human emotions. These moments where the game tries to have you connect with these characters are really heartwarming. And that is all that I ask from a game like this.